Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the David Plosky Power Index Season 2. And we got it back. We got the original crew. We got our executive producer himself. There he is. He's coming into the frame. He's sitting down. Oh, he's going to call. Is that an Austin IPA?
Happy to be back for a second year of the Dppi.
Don't you think we'd be starting this without Mr. Brian Gold himself? Where's Arkadelphia's finest? Oh,
whoa,
there you go.
Right there.
Henderson State volleyball. There he is. Arkadelphia's finest, Brian Gold.
Glad to be back.
Was that Brian?
Glad to be back. Another season underway.
Another season. Last season, Honor claimed the championship. He's the tribal chief now. He's got what is Honor at? Fucking 3 belts now. Guy wins the league every year.
2 belts.
2 belts. Yeah, Humphreys came in second. Drew missed the playoffs. It's same old. What happens every year in this league. But boys, enough of the good housekeeping. We're gonna get right into it. Coming in at the 12 spot, back in the leader of the shitter section to start the preseason. I have Mr. Nicholas Jankowski, dumpster fire. Brian, what are your thoughts about Nick at the 12 spot, and where do you have him on your list?
I also have him at number 12. I think this team just lacks flash. He's got a few big names: Devontae Adams, Kyler Murray. Those guys are going to get you points, but everybody else is just not that exciting this year. Aaron Jones, timeshare. Who knows what the Packers look like? Travis Etienne, Gabe Davis, Dalton Schultz are also just They could be good, could be bad. So there's just a lot of questions. And my favorite player on this team is Alan Lazard. I think that's going to be your biggest hope, is that he turns into a legit number. I don't know what, receiver 3, probably. That he can just become a solid flex for you. That's this guy's hope if he's going to do anything.
This guy's name's Nick. Show him a little bit of respect here. He might draft a shitter, but at least give the respect to saying the guy's name. There's 8 Nicks in this league. Yeah, look at you smiling, blushing now. It's disrespectful, Brian. Chris, I got him at the 12 spot. Where do you have him in your rankings?
12 as well. Total shitter, the leader of the shitter section. Just not loving a lot of his guys. Kind of a hope and a prayer with a lot of them, minus Devontae and Kyler. So we'll see what happens for the shitter section, or the dumpster fire in the shitter section.
Worth noting too, Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, very counterintuitive having both of them. He has Devontae as his wide receiver 1, obviously, and then Renfrow in a flex spot.
Those aren't Chargers. They're not Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Those guys won't produce the same.
I know Brian's boy Derek Carr, future MVP, right? Brian, Derek Carr can carry 2 wide receiver 1s in that offense.
Derek Carr can carry. I think he can carry Waller, Adams, and Josh Jacobs is going to get his work. I think Renfro's the odd man out. He got all that work last year because there was nobody else. So he's going to be nothing more than a good NFL player, but not a good fantasy player.
And Josh McDaniels, an upgrade over John Gruden, yes or no?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess we don't know. He wasn't very good last time.
Time will tell. Well, I know Nick finished. I think he was in the shitter section too to finish last year. I don't know if he's necessarily 12. It was probably spot reserved for Drew. But Nick, you're gonna have to make some trades. But again, this is a preseason ranking. It's to be deciphered. Moving on to the 11th spot, we have the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, the AD himself, Christopher Phillips, coming in at the 11th spot. A stinker of a draft. Brian, I'll let Chris defend himself in a second. I had Chris at the 11th spot. Where do you have him, Brian?
I have Chris up in my top couple. Right now, it's probably 3. I think 3 to 5 is pretty interchangeable, but I think his starting lineup is just as good as you could probably hope for. I said this during the draft, but Chris's draft strategy is exactly what I would have chosen to do if I didn't accidentally get Cooper Kupp. So Lamar Jackson, James Conner, Nick Chubb, Mike Evans, Michael Pittman. Those are all top, not the first tier of players, but all just real good fantasy players that anybody I think would be excited to take. Dawson Knox, Juju Smith-Schuster, there's potential there. And I think his bench is full of running backs who could have value if an injury occurs. So I think his starting group is as good as you could kind of hope for in this league.
Chris, I know this is pre-written. I think I do rank. I ranked you a little low, even to Brian's point. Yeah, you got the horses at the starting position, but Darrell Henderson got a huge boost today. Him and Cam Akers were officially listed as 1A and 1B on the depth chart, so that could be a serviceable flex play and a legit bench spot as a running back. Not to mention, too, DeAndre Hopkins coming back post week 6. That guy's going to be a wide receiver 1. I don't know. Chris, you remember how much you paid for Nuke?
$7.
$7. Yeah, I got it right here. $7.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, 6 weeks, it's not like it's 11 like Deshaun Watson. That is, yeah, it's a decent chunk of our regular fantasy season, but still, I think that's worth the investment. James Cook, I'm kind of whatever on, but Buffalo spent a 2nd-round pick. Jeff Wilson, probably a shitter. Michael Gallup got activated off the PUP list. He's going to be the number 2 wide receiver, solidified behind CeeDee Lamb. And I believe, what was it? Did Dallas put up the most touchdowns in the NFL last year?
Most touchdowns in the NFL last year.
I think a little birdie told me that one. It's a hell of a stat. Yeah, I look back on this 11th. Again, it's to be deciphered. 11 through 6 is almost interchangeable, but I think you'll be in the playoff hunt looking at this team. Not to mention you actually have a legitimate QB in Lamar who could finish easily as the number 1 overall scorer in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, my draft strategy it just really, I panicked out of nowhere. But I'm happy with what ended up after I looked at all the teams. I like my starting lineup, to Brian's point. I think a lot of those guys are going to be really, really consistent. And I think that's important. I know some of them might not have the highest ceiling, but even then, I think I have guys with high ceiling. Lamar, like as to your point, could be the QB1. I personally am high on Juju. I think he could be the number 1 target for Mahomes, obviously with Tyreek Hill gone. And Michael Pittman was good last year with Carson Wentz. I think he could take a big step forward with Matt Ryan and I think his 3rd year now for Pittman. And then I got a couple guys on the bench that I'm excited about. Hopkins, obviously, when I get him back. Gallup, to your point, as the 2nd option to Dak. And a couple running back lottery tickets. And even if just one of them hit between Henderson, Mostert, Cook, or Wilson, I'd be thrilled. So we'll see. I got myself at 4, kind of like with Brian. And, I started this low last year, and eventually I worked myself into the best team. So it's okay.
I mean, I would say, what is your biggest draft regret and your biggest draft, I would say, black for whatever you came away with, you were the happiest?
I wish I spent more on a tight end. Because when I was sitting there with $200 and everyone had less money, I was thinking, I'm not like, I knew I was going to get running backs like Connor, Chubb, Aaron Jones, whatever it was. I was confident. The same with receivers. There's plenty on the board. But at that point, it really seemed like I was going to get a stud tight end, whether it be Andrews, Kelsey was probably gone by then. Kyle Pitts, I was really high on. Even Hawkinson, Schultz, like those are guys I really liked. And I don't know why I didn't. I just was being like super stingy. So I wish I had a more viable tight end. But even then, tight end in the Bills offense, Knox had 9 touchdowns last year. It's pretty respectable. So if you can produce like that, I'd be thrilled.
That sounds like a hell of a team for the 11th spot. This probably is the best league in the history of our league, huh? And then Brian, you had Chris at what spot did you have Chris in?
I'm gonna say 3. It's probably too high, but 3.
Okay, I had him at the 11, and Chris, you had yourself at
4.
Okay, that's probably it's another playoff year for the AD if everything works out. But moving on to the 10th spot, we have one of the most controversial figures in this league, my mortal enemy, the Shug Shitters. Time for a new gimmick. Drew Johnson. I have Drew at the 10th spot. Before I cut the big promo on my mortal enemy, Chris, I'm giving you the floor. Where do you have Drew in your rankings?
Yes, I'm kind of with you. I had him at number 9. Couple guys I really like. Herbert, I think a lot of people would be thrilled to have him. I wouldn't overpay for Herbert, though, if that makes sense. Like I think I got Lamar for a lot cheaper than Herbert, relatively the same.
Herbert was 14.
Yeah, I don't know what I spent on Lamar exactly, but whatever. Kamara, I think, will be really good. Booby Gibson at the RB2, he'll be good for a couple weeks here. And then once the guy who got shot comes back, I think his role will be taken away a bit. Hollywood Brown, the same thing as Antonio Gibson. I think he'll have a really good 6 weeks, and Drew is going to be trying to unload him by about week 5 because he knows Hopkins is coming back. So no one accepts any Hollywood Brown deals. Elijah Moore, I personally don't like, especially with that Joe Flacco boy. Darren Waller, it's a little busy over there. Saquon has, a lot of talk about Saquon. He could be a top 5 running back. He could play 3 games this year. Who knows? AJ Dillon has a really, really high ceiling, but also could just be whatever in a timeshare and doesn't catch passes. And then he's got those guys on the bench who are all lottery tickets. I'm guessing he's hoping some of them hit. Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, Traylon Burks, Pickens. A lot of young guys who have never even played before. So we'll see what happens with them. So
not to mention, I mean, you made a grave mistake during the draft. Is that Eno Benjamin? How did you not get Eno? It's what the most valuable handcuff in fantasy football? How do you not get Eno?
The rumors are saying that it was a mistake for me to not draft Eno Benjamin. Yes.
Unbelievable. I mean, just a rookie mistake. Brian, where do you have Drew on your list?
I have Drew at number 8. I like a lot of the players on his team. I think Herbert, you know what Herbert is at this point. It's pretty good. And Herbert and Lamar were both $14, by the way.
I saw you laugh when you looked at that one. I did too. I smiled a little bit in there.
Kamara's going to be really good if he stays on the field. I really like Marquise Brown potential. Even with Hopkins, Brown is going to get the long touchdowns, but he's going to have weeks where he doesn't do much, and he's going to have a week where 2 touchdowns, 150 yards, and like 3 catches. Depends who they play. Barkley, I believe that Barkley is going to have a bounce back year. It took me a while to come around to that idea, but I think I drafted him in a different league, and I had to convince myself of doing it. So now I believe that Barkley might be a contributing player. And I think Chris hit a lot of the points spot on, that his bench is full of dart throws, and that's kind of what your bench should be in an auction draft. I don't really believe in Brees Hall very much, and I definitely am not taking A.J. Dillon in any league while Aaron Jones is healthy. So I think he's going to battle for the last spot in the playoffs. Maybe. I think there's probably going to be about 4 teams that are fighting for that. And it just depends if his guys work out or not. Just a lot of questions about their roles.
God, I got to defend Drew here a little bit. I know you said dart throws, but Brees Hall is a legitimate running back, a legitimate flex play with running back 2 upside. Devontae Smith is a legitimate wide receiver 3 too, and a decent flex play. I'm pretty high on Burks. We're shaking our head over there. What, you think Hurts is just a bum and AJ Brown's taking everything?
I mean, dude, AJ Brown's a stud, dude. And even without AJ Brown last year, Smith was just a flex play. I mean, and I don't see it for Smith. Brees Hall, I think he has RB2 upside 100%. I don't disagree with that. But to say I don't think he's borderline startable. I mean, he's in a timeshare in itself with Michael Carter already, and he's not even that good. And the Jets offense, I mean, how Joe Flacco, no
you can't start
how
2
many
Jets.
touchdowns are they going to be scoring?
It's how explosive are they going to be? They've got a lot of these weapons, but can they use them at all?
No one to feed the weapons.
Yeah. So like, is Wilson good? We don't know. So Brees Hall is obviously upside, but he is in a timeshare. They're not going to just remove Michael Carter. They drafted him pretty highly as well. And he was productive. I think he won you a week last year, David.
He was
Michael
a
Vince
rookie
Carter.
last year.
He was awesome.
He was all right. He was a rookie last year too. Why they're not just going to kick him to the curb?
So
That's
why I avoided Brees Hall in drafts as well.
Maybe I'm just standing low because I know my bench is just hot garbage and I have nothing but waiver wire shitters. But yeah, you look at his, even like I said, it's just, this is a boomer bust team, the definition of it. Alvin Kamara, if that video surfaces of him beating up that guy in the bar, he is suspended, not the rest of the year, but he's going to get a lengthy suspension. And it will be this year, it won't be next year. So Drew will be screwed out of his first round pick, essentially. He spent $57 on. Gibson is projected to get 16 out of ESPN. That is absolutely absurd.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and then Elijah Moore, and again, you can't start Elijah Moore and Brees Hall to rely on 2 Jets against the Ravens and the opening day of Sunday football. He could lose to fucking dumpster fire doing that type of strat. That's what he plays the first week. Darren Waller, I was one of the guys I was kind of targeting, but kind of in that mid-tier tight end to where I think it's like Waller and then it drops off to where Dawson Knox is probably the best one in that tier. And that's what I was focusing on to do during the draft, is I didn't want to walk away with a bum tight end. And I'm starting Tyler Higbee this week, but not that so much on my team. But yeah, and then Eno Benjamin, Kenneth Walker, George Pickens. I don't think Pickens is really worth the roster spot. I know he had a good camp, but that's more the dart throws. Yeah, it's a dart throws, but he does have Devontae Smith.
It's a total boomer bust team, and honestly, it could boom in a huge way. But I just see it as like, I don't want to say a bust, but it's like he has no for sure things other than Kamara and Herbert. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, Waller will be pretty good because tight end's so weak. He'll be a top 5, 6 tight end, which is good, but he won't like reproduce what he did 2 years ago. And Saquon in itself is, you know, he spent big on him. At one point, I thought he'd be a value. He ended up spending almost $50 on him, and he could play 5 games. And even if he does play 13, 14 games, again, I mean, I don't know how great that offense will be. So,
Jeez, Drew. I think what was this, like 10 minutes on Drew just on his team? Most controversial member in this league.
You chose
Yeah,
to
Drew,
defend it.
unfortunately, you can't accuse me of gaslighting, as Brian likes to say, bullying, whatever you have it. I have you at 10. Brian had you at
8.
and Chris, you have him at
9.
firmly in the shitter section. Hopefully you can dig your way out of it. But we move on to another shitter sitting at number 9. I think it's I blew it. Is this Trevor Monks, the return of Monks coming into the league? And he drafted a shitter? Brian, you're
Hell of a debut at number 9, huh? This is Monks at number 9 you got?
Yes.
Okay, so I had him at 11, so we were both pretty low on him. By far the worst running backs in the league. I mean, horrible. He's got Miles Sanders as RB1, who, you know, could be a decent flex play. Cordell Patterson, which I think nobody expects him to reproduce like last year. That was, I think, magic for a eighth year starter kick returner to suddenly be an RB1 was a absolute stunner. So, you know, at an RB2, he's really praying he can do anything like that. His receivers are stacked, though. Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, I think will be absolutely tremendous. And Kyle Pitts, I'm also high on. So his pass catchers are really good. His running backs are really dreadful. He's going to need, even his bench, he has one running back. He has James Robinson, who is obviously battling with ETN now for carries and any work out of the backfield. So if Robinson hits and ends up being even a flex play, I think that's a success for him. I think his team has potential, but for now, I can't really see much of, he's not a high top 6 team. He's kind of just in the middle, in my opinion. 7. It was hard to judge teams, but
full disclosure, this is a preseason ranking, so it's to be deciphered. There's going to be a lot of, I'm sure even our post week 1 rankings are going to be completely different based on wins and losses, but also on-field performance. But Brian, I mean, we're shitting on Trevor here. Where's your boy Trevor at? Where do you have him at in your rankings?
I also have him at 11.
Oh man, you're gonna hear some shit about this on Xbox.
He's gonna score a lot of points from the receivers and the running back and tight end, but I think he's gonna get very, very little out of the running backs. And that, I think that was my team's issue last year, is that I felt like I had receivers. Well, Pitts sucked. I had Pitts and Hawkinson, and they were awful for me. But I wasn't getting anything out of the running backs, and I lost a lot of weeks by, I think, less than 10. And if I had a better running back, I think I could have won it. And he's going to have to make a trade.
He's could have won what, the league?
What?
You could have won the league? What are you talking about? You
no, I could have won more games.
He said more weeks.
Yeah.
Oh,
I could have won more weeks.
If I had just a little bit better running back, could have won the league. All right, thank you for rephrasing that.
Yeah, but he's got assets, and somebody will come to him for a trade when they need a receiver. And there's some rumors about him pulling off a pretty good deal for a solid RB2. If he does that, his team will be significantly better.
Rumors? How were you sworn to secrecy here?
Yeah, I got this guy who goes by the Sam Presti bit. It's really kind of stupid, but he goes by it, and he's leaking rumors like Woj.
But yeah, again, I'll chime in a little bit on Trevor's team. Just I don't. He must have just been a little bit stingy when it came to the money, and he saw CMC went for 68. JT went for 72, which I thought was kind of low, because it's like, okay, if those two are pushing $80, it's like, holy shit. Then it turns into supply and demand. Then you have Dalvin Cook going for 74. I know Brandon overpaid a little bit for him. But yeah, Trevor's running back situation is horrid. Running backs are the toughest thing to acquire in this league. The toughest thing. You got to pay up for them if you want a premium running back 1, and he's not even close to 1. I guess Miles Sanders is absolute height as a running back 1. Do we agree on that? No?
Like on a different team, but in Philly, he never will be. That's never
one of
get
the best
work.
offenses in the NFL with the top 3 offensive line.
I think don't want to run with him.
No, but I'm saying his absolute ceiling.
His potential to be
But not in that
better
offense.
system.
To Brian's point, I don't think in that offense, him as a player, sure, but in that offense with Hurts as a rusher, I think that really affects him. And even honestly, they use the other guys they use pretty often too. Gainwell,
Boston and
Scott.
I mean, Jordan Howard
So-
came off the couch and ran for 3 tutties too. It was.
just
I
don't
had
do
Miles
that.
Sanders all last year. It was disgusting to watch.
Right. He was
All
on
right,
my
he talked me off a
defense
cliff.
list.
Trevor's really screwed here. He's got
Yeah.
no upside. He's going to have to rely on Cordell Patterson, or again, to Chris's point, reproduce, was it running back 1 numbers out of a journeyman 30-year-old kick returner wide receiver hybrid.
He was getting touchdowns like every single week to start the year. It was unbelievable. And it just can't replicate.
And then obviously, yeah, Trevor's had the abundance of wide receiver talent on this team is disgusting. You guys have already mentioned on that point. Bench, honestly, no one, you guys didn't mention this. I'm really high. I think Kadarius Toney could pop off to where he's a wide receiver too. Flex play, I would play him as a flex play every week with a ton of upside.
I don't
go
like
ahead.
Daniel Jones, so I would never sit there and do it. I mean,
And that week in Dallas, I remember because the following week I ended up bidding.
I know you had him. I remember.
Most of our free agent. No, I didn't even have him. I just bid on him because it was just a player to get. But yeah, Tony has a ton of upside. If you can just stay healthy, even just garbage time, just chucking the ball down to him with the new offensive coaching staff too. I don't know, but yeah, again, if that was a running back instead of Kadarius Toney, when Tony won't even stiff this lineup, and there's a foreseen circumstance that he'd have to play him, he could play him. But yeah, Tony's going to run on Trevor's bench. This guy needs a running back horribly, but I just don't see who's going to trade with him.
And Ayuk. Ayuk is a lot of good
Come
hype
on,
on him.
I think Trey Lance is going to suck too, though. So, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But all right, we'll move on. Coming in at the 8th spot, the last member of the shitter section. Brian, you think you're escaping the shitter section? I see you there.
I should
You're
be.
shaking in your boots. Nope,
I
you're
should
walking.
be in there.
You got the flag. You're like a Baker Mayfield into Ohio Stadium with the toilet on it, sticking into the 50-yard line. There he is, the captain of the shitter section, Mr. Brian Gold. Brian, I got you at 8. Chris, what are our thoughts about Better Call Gold? I should mention before we get into it, there's also been another addition to this league. Brian, you have an associate, a student.
Yeah, I went into a partnership with future lawyer Joshua Crease. And if you have any legal disputes or need fake resolutions, you can contact him at our office number. But we're just excited to work together. Josh is not a football fan first. And so I think this is a good introduction for him into the league. He'll do a little bit of the number crunching. I'll use my gut instincts. And I think we'll have a really good combination right here.
This is the same man that you same alias as Mr. Doug Dimmadome. Am I correct?
Yep. Mr. Doug Dimmadome.
Chris shaking his head. What are your thoughts about this edition? Brian, Better Call Gold.
Doug Dimmadome, based off an personal experience, is the scum of the earth. He is the most toxic, poison, putrid fantasy player I've ever been in contact with. He's a difficult human being to talk to. He is impossible to negotiate with. This guy is absolute scum, and I'm upset that he's even involved in this league at all.
Right. I mean, this
That's
is
not my experience with Josh.
This is Austin McMahon, WrestleMania 17. You just made a deal with the devil.
You're here.
He doesn't know
I'm
what that
here.
means.
Let's do
We're trying.
this.
He knows a couple of the bits, but
Yeah.
All right, number 8, Brian. I actually, David, had him in the exact same spot, number 8. But to be fair to Brian, I had a really hard time, and David joined this earlier. I had a really hard time ranking some of those middle teams somewhere between like 6 and 10. I had a really tough time with. So I put you at 8. I personally don't like Trey Lance, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's a bad pick. He could have tremendous upside. Zeke, I'm actually high on. He's one of like 2 running backs last year that played all 17 games or whatever. I think 2 running backs in the league played every game last year, and he was banged up. He was playing through injury, and he still produced. And you have Pollard as well. Nick had the same situation last year, Zeke and Pollard, and it kind of sucks because you can't start them both, right? But at least just in case one of them goes down, you have that tremendous upside. Rashad Penny, I know a lot of people probably just don't believe in the guy's played like four years in the league, and he's played literally like 7 games, but he was like a top 3 back the last few weeks of the season last year. And I know it's late in the season and it was garbage time. And
not to cut you off, cotton candy yards against Detroit. Rashad Penny is a fat bum.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Oh
I'm just throwing
my
out
God.
there that he has at least produced before. I'm not saying I like him, but I think he's at least a flex play. Cooper Cup, we know he had a miraculous season last year. He's going to regress, and that's fine. But I think he'll still be obviously a wide receiver one. Cortland Sutton has just tremendous upside. He has top 5 wide receiver potential, in my opinion. Mark Andrews will be an elite tight end. Darnell Mooney will be really good. He doesn't scream sexy, especially in Chicago with Justin Fields, but he's going to be a really good, at least a wide receiver too. And Thielen, he's getting old, man, but that offense is supposed to be really pass heavy this year, especially. And he catches a lot of touchdowns. So as a second flex play, I like Thielen. Again, on your bench, you have Pollard. Lockett is I don't like just because their quarterback situation is really, really bad, but he could have a big week if you absolutely had to throw him in there. Goddard is an interesting tight end. He's probably a top 10 tight end just sitting on your bench. And then you got that guy that got shot down there too on IR. But other than that, I like your team. I can see it, but I can see, to David's point, why you would be so low. And I have you at 8 as well. So, I like it. I just don't love it.
But I'll chime in a little bit too. I think Lance is going to be horrible. I think they re-signed Jimmy G to that 1-year deal. Jimmy G could realistically take over that starting. If things go south, Jimmy G's just waiting there. And he's ran that system. Yep. He's been to a Super Bowl, been to an NFC Championship game. They could just ring Lance in and be like, all right, they even could do a 2-quarterback system, just have a couple gimmick plays set for Lance. But Brian, I'll let you defend yourself a little bit here.
So my plan in the draft was always to sit and let people spend money. Josh was insisting that we get a top running back or a top receiver because I guess the stats say you need one of them to win a league. But Cooper Kupp was nominated early, and I think for $61 is what I got him for. 63. I thought he was going to be upwards of 80, and so I just put a bid in. I didn't think I was going to win, but nobody else wanted him, so I got stuck with him. Mark Andrews for 27. I thought it was an incredible deal. He was projected to go for around like 40. I got stuck with him as well, and then my entire plan changed. So we got a top receiver, we got a top tight end, and then at that point, I just needed the best running back available, and that was Zeke. Zeke is just consistent. Even in his bad year, when Dak busted his ankle, he gets touchdowns. He gets 1,000 yards. He's over 4 yards to carry. Maybe he's fat. Who cares? He's still going to run. Pollard felt like a necessary handcuff, so I'm getting whoever is running in Dallas. But there's a lot of talk about them being on the field together and Pollard being more of a slot receiver for them. That would be incredible if I got lucky like that. And Cortland Sutton was a must-have for me. I think he was 18 in the end, or you guys bid him up. I didn't want to spend so much.
I spent $27 on him.
27?
Yeah. I was bidding on him too. I'm with you. I was really high on him too. I think he could be a top 5 receiver. I was bidding on him with you. But even at 27, it could turn out to be a value, to be honest.
It's worthwhile. Like if Keenan Allen went for 24, Sutton's going to get the touchdowns. All of the talk is that Russell and Sutton are hitting it off. He hasn't played in 2 years. I think Sutton hasn't played.
No, he played last year. Just the 2 years ago was the ACL injury, and last year they had a terrible. They had Drew fucking Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. So.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so he
basically went 2 years without playing with those guys.
Yeah, so I think he's going to be good. My plan was to get Russell Wilson for about $3, and then Allie got him, but Lance got up there. I just kind of clicked bid, and nobody else outbid me for it, so I got stuck with him. I thought the rushing potential was nice. That's how I can get a lot of points.
That's the only way you're getting points. That's the only way you're getting points from Trey Lance. So
Thielen, Mooney, nice flexes, pretty cheap. I decided in Seattle that Lockett would probably be better than Metcalf because if the quarterback sucks, they're going to dump it off on little slants, and that's what Lockett's going to be. DK is not going to get the bombs that Russell threw him, and that's how he was such a fantasy asset. So that was the justification in my mind. Honestly, I think my best pick was the Colts defense. I think they get turnovers every week.
No defense,
dude. Colts defense.
If that was your best,
I gotta shut you down, Brian.
If that was your best pick, that's not a good thing.
But Brian, your biggest
for $1.
Think of a crafty adjective here. Your biggest draft regret and your biggest draft.
I know what you mean. So
you throw me an adjective here, you old man. Come on.
Surprise, I guess. My draft surprise.
crystallize your knowledge here, and the bit we get the best answer we get out of him is surprise. Brian, what was your biggest draft surprise?
Was Mark Andrews for 27. It changed my whole strategy. And I wish I didn't have to have Rashad Penny as a number 2, but he was a must-have at that point because he is a starting running back until Walker is healthy. They are going to run the ball, and if they can't throw it, he might get those goal line touchdowns. Chris said he has produced before. I've been waiting years. Who cares? I've been waiting years for Rashad Penny to be good. I've always stashed him, hoping, but he's been so hurt. So if he can get me a couple weeks until somebody else pops up.
David, do you want to go over let's go the last 5 weeks of last year. Fantasy this is for fantasy points for Rashad Penny. Week 14, 27 points. Week 15 versus the Rams, 5 points. Week 16, 20 points. Week 17, 32.5 points. Week 18, 27 points. He finished as an RB3 the final 5 weeks of the season. So
who are the opponents?
It doesn't matter.
That matters. It 100% matters. Teams are rested at that week 18 when it's just like, let's hand the ball
off
to
Penny.
I'm
just telling you, he has the ability to put up numbers. I understand it's later in the season, but like that's playoff time. If he had him last year, he'd win him the league, just like St. Brown won honor the league.
Bounce it off Derek Barnes for 8 yards per carry.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying I love him. I'm saying he can produce. That's all I'm saying. Also,
he did it.
If Penny hypothetically was not his RB2, let's just say he had, I don't know, like Travis Etienne as his RB2 or something. His starting lineup would be the best starting lineup in the league, in my opinion.
If I had a more solid second running back,
you could again,
I think Zeke is going to be good.
You love Zeke though. It's different. You've had him for years in fantasy, the Cereal Bowl. Us realists here. The guy has 1,900 carries. He had a ton of wear and tear at Ohio State. I mean, he looks like he's damn near cooked, and it killed him
every game last year.
All right. I didn't say that. I have myself ranked 5th. That's where I put myself. I think I'm a playoff team for sure.
I think you're absolutely a playoff contender. There's no doubt about it.
I think I'm in. Based on these rosters, I think I'm in.
So and just to kind of wrap it up too, Chris, you had Brian at.
I had him at 8 with you as well.
Hey, Brian, you had yourself
5
at 5. And I have you at 8. So, according to us, to your shitter, according to yourself, your potential playoff team. If I know, I see the look on your faces already. Honor coming in at the 7th spot, not in the playoffs, shitter section, but he's creeping. Chris, with that shocked expression on your face, your boy Honor, let's hear it. Where do you have him in your rankings?
Yeah, so I had our defending champion at number 3, actually. I like his team. I don't absolutely love it, but I like it. Joe Burrow, solid. He'll be like a 7th, 8th, 9th quarterback. Najee Harris, not super high on him, but he's an RB1 for sure. DeAndre Swift, also an RB1, so he has 2 RB1s. And that is because he has Allen Robinson as his receiver 1. I personally think Allen Robinson will be very good in the Rams offense. I think his career is going to bounce back in a big way. I think Allen Robinson will be really good. Christian Kirk just got absolutely paid. Trevor Lawrence in his 2nd year with Kirk, even last year in Arizona, kind of playing like 2nd, 3rd fiddle. He got 1,000 receiving yards. I think Kirk will be good. I don't think he'll be amazing, but I think he will be a starter every week at worst a flex. Travis Kelce, obviously we know he's a stud. Rashad Bateman in his 2nd year is the primary target for Lamar outside Mark Andrews, but in the receiving room, he's easily the number 1. I think he'll be very good. And he has Rondale Moore in the 2nd flex, which is weird. But obviously I don't think that's very permanent. His bench is a total shitter though. So he's going to need to stay healthy. He really even needs to hit on one guy because starting Moore could be okay for, the first 6 weeks while Hopkins is out. But after that, he's going to need to find a replacement. But overall, I like his team at 3, and we know he can manage a hell of a team. So,
I mean, I just don't. You guys, there's a gasp in this room. I just can't believe it. I mean, to your point, Rashad Bateman and Rondale Moore are starting flex players. I know Bateman has a lot of upside. Is Lamar's consensus number 1 by far, but it's still how valuable is the number 1 receiver in the Baltimore Ravens offense?
Hollywood was pretty good last year, dude. I mean,
It's the
Hollywood's
only viable
Hollywood's a
spot.
way better talent than Rashad Bateman is. A completely different
come
player
on,
too.
Bateman
necessarily.
has produced.
Oh,
Come on.
he's producing against big time DBs. We're big time boys. We've seen the guy play.
Big
say
Ten
that
DBs
about
are good
anybody.
DBs.
You can say that about anybody.
But it's just so you're saying Rashad Bateman is comparable to Hollywood Brown?
I'm just saying
Different player.
he's a talented player and he's the number 1 receiver to Lamar, just as Hollywood was last year. And Hollywood had 1,000+ yards and I'm just guessing, I don't know, 7-8 touchdowns.
I get in theory, but Bateman's not proven. It's just, would you feel comfortable starting him as one of your flexes week to week
Yes,
basis?
I would. Yes, I definitely would.
What about Rondell Moore? Are we comfortable? This Honor's just the biggest Big Ten fan in the world, huh?
No, that's the only thing I just said. I said that's the only thing he's gonna have to figure it out. The rest I think looks good.
And then Christian Kirk. I mean, the idiots in Jackson. Tony Khan, idiot who runs AEW now, can't even get punked in the locker room right away. This idiot paid what they paid Christian Kirk, made him a top 5 paid receiver in the NFL. Allen Robinson was the biggest fantasy bust in all fantasy football. I know it's the Bears. I know it's Justin Fields. I know it's Nagy. But he was god awful. Even like his effort downfield and some of the downfield blocking. Maybe he has the talent. So you're expecting this huge career renaissance, and he just produces wide receiver 1 numbers, which Honor is playing him as. And Kirk is his wide receiver 2. And I think Kirk at the absolute best is a flex play with a decent amount of upside, being the number 1 in Jacksonville. But you're starting Christian Kirk as your wide receiver 2 with confidence?
I think he could end the year as a top 24 wide receiver. Yes, I do.
I mean, I'm looking at this. I could easily switch you and Honor up. I'll be honest. This team's ass. Brian, I know you've been bagging on him. There's a gas from you too. So you're pretty high on this team. Where do you have Honor in your rankings?
I just made a change because I didn't realize that Rondell Moore was starting as well. So I have him at number 4. That's what I have him at right now. And
I better be number 1 in your fucking rankings. Tell you right now.
You're definitely not. Honor, I thought Burrow solid. I think the 2 running backs it's going to be a lot to overcome those guys, like in a positive way for opponents. Those running backs are going to get a lot of points. I believe Najee Harris is going to get a big workload. And DeAndre Swift is supposed to get a big workload. I didn't quite process while I was filling this out quickly that Robinson is his number 1. Robinson is number 2 to the massive workhorse that's Cooper Kupp. So he'll get what's left, and it might be flexible, but it's not going to be.
Come on, Robert.
And Stafford's got a bum elbow. He could get Tommy John.
Robert Woods, before he tore his ACL last year, was the 12th ranked wide receiver. And then OBJ came in and was really, really good.
There's definitely
Robert Woods is not 12th. He was 18th. Yes. I drafted him. He was not 12th. He was 18th.
Okay.
It's a wide receiver 2 still, but it's not 12th.
Okay. I'm just saying it.
Rob's not that type of player.
He's a bum. We saw it last year. The guy put up some.
He's produced numbers with literally the
Blake
worst
Bortles and garbage
quarterback situation ever.
And I think the part that's just the best. He's got probably one of the best running back combinations, and then Travis Kelce. You're going to get 20 points out of all of them on a weekly basis on a good weeks. But we actually don't know what Kelce is going to look like this year.
Oh my God, that's
shut
your mouth.
No, but like, is he going to get
your mouth?
double covered? There's no more Tyreek off the top.
We got to get through these.
Yeah, if I was a better editor, I'd literally have just the Michael Scott pushing the old man out of the room. That was
my only point is that Rondell Moore is not going to be his flex. I think Romeo Doubs is probably going to take that spot.
Honor your season.
I don't know how to
hanging on the shoulders of Romeo Doubs. So
Rodgers loved him. So
honestly, this team should be in the shitter section. Drew might be above this team. Chris is above this team. Hopefully you prove me wrong, Honor. But you had him at 4. Brian.
I didn't rank him above me, but I'm above this team.
I had him at 3.
3, and I have you at 7. So Honor looks like another playoff run potentially for you. But man, that team is a total shit squad. You should be in the shitter section. I don't know what I was thinking. We're moving on now to not quite the elite of the elite, but the playoff teams. And coming at the number 6 spot, #relentless. Brandon McKinney back after making the most transactions the past 2 years in this league. He's I got him at the 6th spot. Chris, where do you have Brandon at?
I'm close with it. I got him at number 5. So I got him at the back end of the playoffs, but I like his team. To your point, this guy might be the most active GM in fantasy football history. This guy will pick up absolutely anybody to get him some points. He's got the Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook stuff going on. So I don't know. I mean, I don't love Kirk as a starter, but he'll be solid. I mean, he'll throw a lot of touchdowns. Dalvin Cook, I was bidding him up like fucking nothing. I think he'll be a stud. Kareem Hunt as an RB2, I don't see that. CeeDee Lamb's a stud. Mike Williams will catch a lot of touchdowns. Noah Fant's a shitter. Jalen Waddle, I personally don't like. Doesn't mean he's not a good football player. Doesn't mean he can't produce some weeks in fantasy. I just don't think Tua can support him and Tyreek. I hate Tua, hate him. So I don't like Waddle. DJ Moore, a total stud in your flex. He's a potential wide receiver 1, is just sitting in his flex. His bench is pretty shitty. I would say he's got McKissick and we're not even a full PPR. Irv Smith's a dart throw. His bench blows.
Big Rob Tunya's in there too. We're carrying 3 tight ends, the Moo strat.
Yeah, well, that's how you know his bench blows if he has 3 tight ends. I don't, he has some holes in the starting lineup. But the guys he does have in, I feel really good about, like DJ Moore, Mike Williams, CeeDee Lamb. That's a fantastic big 3 at receiver. And Dalvin Cook is definitely has top 3 running back upside for sure. So I like his team as a comfortable playoff team, 5, 6, somewhere in there.
And Brandon did, I mean, you could say whatever surface level, he did overpay for Dalvin Cook. It was $74, but it was supply and demand at that point. That was the last horse by far.
Yeah.
But Brian, hashtag relentless. Where do you have Brandon at in your rankings?
I'll keep it short that I lowballed him. I got him at number 9. And a lot of that has to do with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is waiver wire. Like he's always been that.
What?
I know they're supposed to throw more. But Dalvin's gonna get the ball.
He could lead the league in touchdowns.
What?
He could lead the league in touchdowns.
Who? Dalvin Cook?
Looks like
Kirk Cousins.
Dalvin to compare him and Kirk Cousins like he's Daniel Jones or Justin Fields or Carson Wentz. That's not fair.
He's not a flashy quarterback. He'll get 20 some weeks, and he'll get, at least last year there were some weeks where he just didn't throw. They just didn't need him to. So he's solid, but I thought there was better. Noah Fant could do relatively nothing if that's your starting tight end for now. Seattle has never featured a tight end, and why get one who's still sort of unproven? The receivers are good. Don't love Kareem Hunt as your number 2. That was my team's problem last year. This Nick Chubb's show. So I got him at number 9, but he's gonna have to get carried by those receivers.
I mean, to lowball him like that, just solely based on Kirk Cousins, is kind of asinine. But
It's
that's opinion your own. That's the Brian Gold, Power Index.
It's Cousins and Fant.
But yeah, to your point, Jalen Waddle, I thought, man, if he could replace Waddle with a stud running back too, with that total money, because he spent, what was it on Jalen Waddle? He paid up a little bit, 16. I mean, it's not a horrible price.
Yeah, but if he takes that 16 and whatever he's
and the 9 from Hunt, like he could have got like, I'd rather hit Hunt's
Josh
not even
Jacobs,
that bad too, because
Gibson,
Cleveland's going to be running the ball 35 times a game.
Jacobs, Sanders, Montgomery, someone like that would be better off.
Even if Hunt could potentially get traded too, but no, I think Hunt's still a flex play, 100%. So I don't, again, too, but that's why I bring in the top 6, and I think you guys kind of lowball them. But real quick, Chris, you had Brandon where?
5.
5. I have him at 6, and then Brian, you had him at 8, right?
And 9.
At 9. Jesus, really down there. But moving into the number 5 spot, who do we have here? We got the Woats. One of the, again, too, on the emphasis on the nicknames. One of the classic nicknames of the league, the Woats. You got Nicholas Belmonte coming in at the top 5 spot. Brian, I'll leave it to you. Where were the Woats on your rankings?
The Woats for me were number 6. That's where I had them. So pretty close. I think the Woats has just a real solid team. I'm trying to pull them up. I'm a little scrambled. Here they are.
Ready to prepare.
I gotcha. So I think the starting lineup, the top half of it is just a bunch of solid players. Jalen Hurts is a good fantasy player. I'm iffy on AJ Brown this year as well. I am pretty high on Amon-Ra St. Brown. and Pat Fryermuth at tight end. We don't really know what Pittsburgh's going to look like passing wise, but he was pretty solid last year, and hopefully he takes another leap. I don't love his flexes, and I think his bench is just kind of crap. And that's why I kept him at 6. I think the starting group is really good, but there's nothing on that bench. And if DK doesn't work out, he's kind of screwed.
Yeah, I got him at I actually have him at number 2.
Wow.
I like his team. I think Hurts is fantasy gold. He could be QB1, no question. Austin Eckler is fantastic. He has top 3 ceiling for sure. He probably will be a top 3 back for sure. Fournette, it's weird because like Fournette just randomly popped off last year for Tampa, but he obviously has the skills. And last year, I'm just guessing he was probably a top 10 back, maybe even higher, 7th. I'm looking at it right now.
7th, yep.
So realistically, he has 2 top 10 backs in theory. AJ Brown is a touchdown machine. Him supporting some of those guys in Philly, I don't know, but he has that stack. So even if he's an improved passer, it could be a really good stack. Brown is a really skilled player. St. Brown was elite at the end of the last year. Obviously no one really loves Goff, but if you're the number 1 target in offense, you got a lot of potential there. Fryermuth, whatever, no one cares. Metcalf will obviously regress a lot, but I still think he can get his. I mean, as your flex, I think you feel pretty good about that. And I personally like Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year. He's not really lived up to much as what really a lot of the fantasy guys have thought the last 2 years, but I think he could be really good. I think this could be the breakout year. It kind of has to be. And I see him as at least an RB2 personally. So I like him and Metcalf as your 2 flexes. His bench is really horrible, but overall I like his team a lot. So
yeah, and you could with the inclusion of the double flex, it's like usually that second flex spot would be a pretty solid guy off the bench for us, but now it's like no one in this league has a good bench.
It's hard. It's really hard.
I think I got a good bench. No, that's not true.
That's why you're ranked 10th. But God.
No, I think my bench is fine.
God, just one time, Brian. This guy just ruins everything.
Come on, no.
Brian, what did you already say your Nick B bet? Where'd you have him?
Who?
The Wolves.
I had him at number 6.
I had him at 6. Or sorry, I had him at 5. You had him at 6. Chris had him at 2. Nick, you're going back to the playoffs. Moving on to the number 4 team.
5 or 4.
No, this is the 4th team.
This is 4.
You just said you had him at 6.
No, I know. I clarified. Brian had him at 6.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Coming at the 4th spot, you got one of the most heated rivalries in this league, Mr. Nicholas Humphreys, with a new gimmick this year, Make-A-Wish kid. Very, very nice. Very, I don't know. It's not, at least it's one of the more original team names in this fucking league. Oh God, Brian, let's give it to Hump. No, you got to let Brian beat up on Hump a little bit here.
I don't think there's anything to beat up on. I have him at number 1.
Wow.
This is my number 1 team.
Oh my God.
Is Earl who's Earl the Pearl now? Barry Sanders at the 3rd-year league?
Earl, I hate the Earl bit. His name is Elijah or Eli. His name is not Earl. So he's got Derrick Henry and Elijah Mitchell that, when healthy, they're going to be good running backs. San Francisco likes Elijah Mitchell more than anybody else. Debo and Godwin, that's a real solid 1 and 2 receivers. I like Dameon Pierce this year. He's at least got the opportunity, should be pretty solid. And Judy, at this point, Judy's a solid flex. We don't know what that'll turn into, but that starting lineup is just solid. The weakness is obviously Zach Ertz, but even he is going to be maybe 8 to 10 points. So that starting lineup's good. He's got a little bit of depth on the bench with Amari Cooper and Singletary. Chuba Hubbard as
He took Chuba Hubbard to be a dick because he knew that was one of my handcuffs. But I wanted Dante Ford.
Yeah, but anyway, it's a good handcuff. It's got value. And then if he doesn't like Zach Ertz, he's got Hunter Henry. So I think his team that starting group is just real solid. He's got good pieces on the bench. I think he was the best team, the best complete roster right now.
No bonus points for having your boy Derek Carr either?
I was kind of mad. I really wanted Derek Carr pretty cheaply.
Yeah, okay. Looking at Hump's team, I mean, it's a good team, the best team in the league. I would strongly disagree with that. Do you think Earl the Pearl is going to make a second-year leap to where he turns into Barry Sanders?
He
What is
already
going
was
on
good.
here?
He played 11 games and ran for 963 yards and 6 touchdowns.
San Fran's going to run the ball 40 times a game, and he'll get
With
the
him.
Yeah, he'll get the lion's share of those carries. So I kind of agree with you on that. But I don't know if he's going to be a legitimate running back too to start this year.
Yeah,
He was a
and with
beast.
Trey Lance transitioning as the starter and he has legs, obviously, I think that changes it. I had Earl last year. He had like 500 different injuries. I don't know if he'll hold up. They spent like literally a 6th-round pick on him, so that I don't think they're tied to him either. He's just a rookie on a
Yeah.
fucking, you know.
I like him though for sure.
No, they like him. I know. I like him. I just don't know if he'll hold up. Henry, eventually he's going to regress. He missed 9 games last year. He's a horse. He's going to get the volume. Brady is 700 years old. Also, just shows out every year, but maybe also this is the year he doesn't. He has Godwin coming off an ACL late in the season, so he's going to be cleared to go from the looks of it.
He's not going to be anywhere close to 100%.
I don't like the year after guy. You want like the 2 years after the injury, in my opinion. And so Godwin, I'm not super high on. I think he'll be solid. Ertz, will be fine. 7, 8 tight end. Damian Pierce, he obviously bought the height. But what really does an RB1 in the Texans offense get you on a week-to-week basis? I don't know. And Judy has massive upside, but I think a lot of people are right. I think Sutton will just be the guy in the offense. I think Judy could still be a viable flex play, but also Debo's not going to repeat that after last year.
He won't replicate that, but he could still be a high-end wide receiver 1.
He could be, dude, but I'm honestly out on that too. I think he's just going to be.
Take Debo.
I think he's just going to be a guy in the offense. I think it'd be solid. I had Hump at 7.
And he did. It's not like he got it. He did pay $48 for Debo, so it's not like he got any type of steal. And we have also, who knows the question mark with Derrick Henry? I know he's a different animal. He's still 28 years old. He just literally screws in his foot now. Horrible injury to the end last year. So if he's not the same guy, Humphrey's team could be cooked right off the get go. To be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, even like one more thing about Humphrey's team too. Even Jerry Jeudy, it's like he probably paid Brian. You paid 27 for Cortland Sutton, correct?
Yeah.
He paid 10 for Jerry Jeudy, and Jerry Jeudy could just end up being Russ's guy. So we don't know. You got to let it all play out.
I think the difference for me was touchdowns. I obviously didn't want to pay 28 for Sutton, but Judy's 6'1" or something. He's the slot guy. I think he's supposed to be. Best hands, best route runner. Sutton's the jump ball touchdown guy. Russell likes DK. He likes his big jump ball guys. So that's why I took Sutton over Jeudy for cheaper.
And KJ Hamler is the primary slot receiver in Denver.
To give him
Hamler does not have that locked up.
To give him some praise, I like Singletary off the bench. And Cooper, if Humphreys is in the playoffs, by the time Watson gets back, Cooper could be really good for him.
Oh, that's a great. I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point too.
Yeah.
But Hump, it looks like after years and years of just awful finishes, like just firmly in the shitter section.
He got second last year.
I know. I'm just saying years and years. He's coming. The momentum off last year's performance, finally breaking through that proverbial glass ceiling. Look at this. Now you're sitting at the 4 spot. Chris, you had him at
7.
And Brian, you had him best team in the league, number 1.
I hate that.
That's how you squash the beef right there. A little bit of kiss ass.
But
yeah, I got him at 4, transitioning into 3. Chris, is this the lead of the elite?
No, you got to be a championship top 2 for the elite.
Got to be one of the top 2 big dogs, huh? Well, coming in at the 3 spot, I got Dr. Locks, Mr. Jacob Cuny coming in top 3. Brian with a smile on his face. Brian, what do you think about Dr. Locks, Mr. Jacob Cuny coming in at the 3 spot?
I think that's really generous. I know that ESPN projected him as our top team in points, but just kind of looking at the roster, I'm just kind of shocked. This starting lineup is not better than some of the teams we've talked about. Josh Allen is obviously really good. Joe Mixon is going to be good. Montgomery's got questions, and Stephon Diggs is good, but Marvin Jones is your number 2 wide receiver. Like that's not good. You don't want to live with that, especially with Christian Kirk in town. So that's a tough one for me to swallow. Jacoby Myers in your second flex.
Oh yeah, that's rough.
So I'm just shocked that he was supposed to be number 1. I've got him at number 10. in my ranking.
Oh my God. There's
I got him
that's
down
that's
at 10.
blasphemous.
I
Wait,
am
Brian.
very dependent on the Bills and Mixon.
I want you to elaborate a little bit. What are the question marks behind Montgomery? Because he's Khalil Herbert? Herbert's coming in to take
No,
some.
it just apparently there's rumors that he's not going to be that involved. Questions of his fit in their offense. And I drafted Montgomery in a lot of leagues because I think he's solid. But it's not flashy and he's going to get some yards and he's going to get touchdowns. The biggest question mark is honestly George Kittle. I obviously took Trey Lance, but Kittle wasn't necessarily great with Lance. And so it's just questions. Are they going to throw it to him? They don't use
Lance
him
Lance threw 6 balls last year. What are you talking about?
Lance played like a couple of games. I think he started 3 games.
Trey Lance threw like 6 passes last year.
All right, it doesn't matter.
No, he didn't. He played in 6 games, 600
We're-
yards.
Brian, are you serious or do I brain fog from this COVID?
He threw for 600 yards.
All right, it's all right.
Started
I'm with Brian here. I have Dr. Locks at number 11 in our league. Number 11.
My God.
I am with Brian here. Josh Allen, stud. Mixon, stud. Diggs, Allen connection, awesome. Montgomery, on paper, he's a good RB2. The Bears offense will probably be the worst in the league. Their line is brutal. Fields is also a rushing quarterback, so he could eat up some there too. Montgomery, I think, is fine. I would rather have him in a flex. Marvin Jones is your wide receiver 2, and he's got to be by far and away the worst wide receiver 2 in our league. And George Kittle is not an elite tight end. He's, I would say, that second tier. He'll finish 5th, 6th, somewhere like there. Jacoby Myers in your flex, put a bowl in my head. And Cam Akers, he ruptured his Achilles. He came back in 6 months, and he looked terrible in the playoffs. And I know it's 6 months, and he rushed back. He looked really bad. Henderson's going to be in a 50-50 split with him. He paid up for Akers too. I just don't see it. His bench blows. I think he has 3 really, really solid pieces, and after that, he's got some big, big holes to fill.
Even I don't know, what is this thing? Like, he's carrying 3 tight ends too. Like, Gesicki is a startable tight end.
No, Gesicki is not startable anymore. Everything that they've said is that he is not a part of the offense anymore. That's your drop. He wasn't good last year.
I know, but relative to tight ends, he was a tight end 1. He was the 12th ranked tight end last year.
$24 for Cam Akers. Oof.
I like Akers. I think that's a good price. I wish I could have bought him for that. I would have been ecstatic. I believe in Akers. The coming back from an Achilles in 6 months is an incredible feat, but also incredibly stupid. Like, there's no way that you're good. No one has ever done that. So now a full season removed, more rehab, strengthened.
The only positive there is that, like, his comeback season was literally the same season. Like, he got those bad games out of the way.
Yeah.
Coming back from the injury. But it will also be apparent, in my opinion, if he's not producing within the first few weeks, that he's just kind of, I'm not going to say done as a player, but as fantasy RB 1, 2, whatever. I think it's very possible within a few weeks we realize him and Henderson are just flat out 50-50 and neither are viable as a starter.
The only thing is McVay doesn't really go with, he prefers a workhorse a la Todd Gurley. So, and Cam Akers, remember 2 years ago, towards the end of that season when he came back, I remember Mumu had him. He was one of the better fantasy running backs in all of fantasy football. Yeah, but that's 2 years ago, and it's tough. Then he torn Achilles later. He's not the same, but
he's a first-round pick, I think, last year in most drafts, first or second in like a snake draft. So everyone's stock is dropped on him just because of obviously the Achilles, but coming back and looking bad. It's huge upside. At $24, that's a great price, I think. So, but overall, the team not that impressive. Overhyped.
I know, to kind of compare this, would you rather, if I'm in CUNY's position, I would rather have Stephon Diggs as my wide receiver 1 with Marvin Jones as my 2 than Allen Robinson and Kirk as my collective starting group.
Yeah.
CUNY has stronger starting wide receivers as a unit than Honor does, is he not? Diggs is a wide receiver 1.
No, because Honor has Bateman at least. He has Jacoby.
And he has an Allen Diggs stack.
Okay, but Rashad Bateman is like a startable receiver every week. He has Jacoby Myers.
Rashad Bateman is just going to turn into Laquan Boulder 2012.
Whatever. Let's just move on to number 2.
All right. Well,
There's literally crickets. Who has their window open?
That's me, but my
My
window is not
God.
open. I just heard it. That's Arkansas.
there's Arkadelphia's finest. Chris, you referred as the top two as the elite of the elite.
Yep.
We have 10 minutes left.
Yes, we do.
At number 2, Death to Democracy. Myself.
I can't believe you put her at number 1.
I'm not going to say, you know what, Brian, I thought about it, but I'll give you
All
guys
right.
the floor.
Well, since you do this to everyone else, let's bury your team first. I have you at number 6, a close playoff team. I think you'll be in contention. Patrick Mahomes, stud. McCaffrey, stud if he stays healthy. Josh Jacobs sucks. Jamar Chase, stud. Brandon Cooks, very consistent. Tyler Higbee in the Rams offense, maybe, just maybe, but realistically, he's probably at the bottom of the barrel tight end. J.K. Dobbins, I personally do not like him. Coming off a major injury.
Torn ACL. It's like sprained your ankle in 2022.
It's a big injury. It's the first few games back. He probably won't even play week 1. He's not even ready to go. So realistically, he's not even ready by week 3, 4. He's not going to get back into his shape. Lamar as a rusher is going to eat some anyway. Robert Woods also off an ACL injury. A potential first target for Tannehill, but that's not saying all that much. He's not the talent of A.J. Brown, especially at 30 years old and a torn ACL. The bench, you got some dart throws, Moore, Dotson, your handcuff, Ingram, Kenny G is terrible, Albert O, your guy, and Jamison Williams. Some dart throws there. Overall, I think you're a solid team. You'll make attention all year. Number 6 for me.
I'll cut in here that I didn't want to give you the credit, but I have you at number 7. But your roster is better than the way Chris describes it. I believe in Josh Jacobs.
No, wait. What, you had me at number 7?
I have you at 7.
That's not a playoff roster.
It probably is. I just didn't want to give you the credit in the first power rankings.
I was to say, is there something in the water in Arkadelphia? What are we doing over there?
No. I like Josh Jacobs. Mahomes, McCaffrey, if McCaffrey stays healthy, obviously he's going to be really good. Jamar Chase was really good. We obviously had a trade last year with that. Cooks is highly I don't know if I got pants. Cooks is underrated for sure. He's really solid, and he was actually pretty good down the stretch if I remember correctly. I like Dobbins and Woods. I don't know what you paid for them. 20.
Dobbins was north of 20.
3 for Robert Woods. That's really good. Somebody's got to catch the ball in Tennessee, and I think it's probably him over Burks. I like Sky Moore. I think he might be one of the guys to really pop off in Kansas City.
He's a 4-string receiver.
Oh my, he's a lottery. What is it? So McCole Hartman in year 5 of his, or year 4 or 5 of his career is suddenly just going to turn into Tyreek Hill, like people are assuming.
Maybe
they took him in the second round. It's a dart throw.
Clyde, Kelsey, Juju, and Valdez-Scantling are all ahead of Sky Moore in terms of anything.
But who's the vertical threat in that offense then?
Marquez
Scantling is like 6'4". He's a burner too, but Sky Moore they drafted in the second round.
I think Sky Moore is going to do the gadgets. All the stuff
if Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes want you in the second round, they're going to use them.
All right, come on, we got to sit. We got to have time for number 1.
You can talk about your team a little bit. Go for it. But I got you at 7.
Oh, and I'll leave the floor to someone who's been mentally abused on this little podcast here for quite a while now. But number 1, could this be the biggest turnaround in the history of fantasy football?
If she pulls it off.
It's stunning.
The Michael Thomas fan club, Miss Allie Johnson, the number 1 ranking.
Brian, where did you have her?
I had her at number 2.
I had her at number 1.
I think
consensus top 2 team, the lead of the elite, the consensus lead of the elite, probably the first time ever.
She is the elite of the elite. I think Russell Wilson in a major bounce back year with Denver. Jonathan Taylor, absolute stud. Damian Harris, I don't love him, but damn, he had a lot of touchdowns last year. I think at worst he's a flex. Scary Terry and T. Higgins. They're not like sweet high upside wide receiver 1s, but they're both consistently really good. They're going to catch like 90 balls, have 1,000 yards apiece, 6 tutties.
I wish I got that from Terry last year.
TJ Hawk for $3. Unbelievable. Javonte Williams, probably the guy that people are just drooling over the most. He has the absolute highest ceiling, I think, in fantasy football. He could be a top 3 back if he's given the keys fully in a Russell Wilson-led offense. Michael Thomas as your second flex. I personally think he's going to bounce back in a huge way. I think that Saints offense is going to be really, really good. Drake London even will be the top option in Atlanta. Melvin Gordon, the handcuff to her Javonte Williams. Naheem Hines, her handcuff to Jonathan Taylor. Garrett Wilson was a high-end draft pick from the Jets. Her team is pretty stacked top to bottom. Number 1 for Mrs. Johnson.
And I would say, too, this team has the perfect balance of high-risk boom guys, like you're saying, like Javonte Williams. Even she does have Melvin Gordon, who is partially a handcuff, but does have standalone value.
He was good last year.
But even like really what's Jonathan Taylor's floor? It's still a running back 1.
Yeah.
Even like Terry's floor, I had him last year. He's infuriating. He's still a startable receiver. Higgins, I'm not. Higgins is a little iffy on. I know some people think he can finish as a wide receiver 1 again. I'm not too sure. I think Burrow and Chase, even though I have Chase, they could come down to earth a little bit. But top to bottom, like Javonte Williams is a flex. Michael Thomas is a flex. Just top to bottom, that roster is far and away the best one in the league. Allie, you did a tremendous job in the draft. Just don't fuck it up by trading your team, half your team away to Chris, or making some other bad trades, maybe a little collusion within the household. Who knows what you're capable of? But for right now, you have the number 1 ranking, and Brian Gold, you'll send us home here, buddy.
I'll close it out that, especially for having Jonathan Taylor and the cost that it has, getting Terry and T. Higgins looks even better when you put that into perspective. Joe Burrow likes T. Higgins. The Bengals like T. Higgins. That's your big 6'5" dude, and he just catches passes. Obviously she got TJ Hawkinson for $3, which somehow everybody in the league was sleeping on it and just wasn't paying attention. But I also don't think Hawk's going to be that great. The Lions, I don't think we really want to feature the tight end. He's going to have a couple of games, maybe 100 yards. But we're a run-first team. We have some better receivers now. Hawk wasn't great last year. Why is he suddenly going to be better?
Well, real quick, too, we're on the clock here. Hawkinson was used in like an unbalanced line. Instead of going like unbalanced line, Hawkinson was used to pass block a ton last year. I had him.
I had him first.
He seems to be a safe bet to be like a second tier tight end.
For $3?
I mean, no, I agree.
For $3,
that's
awesome.
I
don't know about you guys, but I'm spinning the bottle with Tyler Higbee and Albert O.
Yeah,
just
he could be
praying that I can get 9 points out of my tight end spot now.
He could definitely be the 4th, 5th, 6th tight end for $3. It's a steal, no matter
An absolute
what.
Steal, and a hometown discount because you get to watch them. Well, they're Denver fans now too. They're sitting there with their Jerry Jeudy jerseys, but
she's got Javonte, Hawkinson, Russ.
They had to watch him. Drew really wants Cortland Sutton, and I said he's not available. You can't watch them all. I think she did a really good job of protecting herself with the handcuffs as well.
Indisputable. Like I said, there are only 2 teams in the lead of the lead. I had her at 1, Chris had her at 2, and Brian, you had her at.
I had her at 1.
I had her at 1. Sorry, Al, I screwed that up. We both had you at 1. Brian had you at 2. You joined the elite of the elite. You finally had a decent draft. Maybe this year you finally could potentially make the. I mean, with that roster, there's a robot.
Don't trade. Don't trade until somebody gets hurt. Just keep
Allie, I'm going to text you tomorrow morning. Let's make a deal.
There it is. Brian, send us off here, buddy.
That's it for week 1, and we'll see you for the week 2 power rankings. Don't forget to set your lineups, ladies and gentlemen. And if I don't see you, good evening, good morning, and good night.
Arkadelphia's finest. What a horrible outro. Thank you, Brian.